There you go. What's up, everybody? My name is Tony Hope, and you're listening to the Hear Me Roar podcast, a sports show where I run my mouth about all things sports. And today, I am not at Georgia State University. Instead, I am in the comfort of my home, bringing y'all another iteration of the Hear Me Roar podcast. And if you're not familiar with my voice, you better get used to it because I am the future of sports media. Yeah, today we are not in Georgia State. Georgia State is closed due to Christmas break. It's not going to be open for another until after the new year. So for the next 2 weeks, we're going to be live from home, quarantine style. So we're back at it again. Me and my co-host Noble Lewis. This is the first time we're adding a video element to Hear Me Roar. So as we go ahead and continue to grow and build some synergy and build a brand image behind Hear Me Roar, video is going to come along with it. So get ready for it. This is going to be the first podcast uploaded to YouTube as well. Um, and what better way to start off than on a show after a weekend full of some great sports moments. We had UFC 296 on Saturday. We had football on Thursday. We had football on Saturday, and we had football on Sunday, and we had football yesterday. So we have so much to talk about. I can't wait to dive into it. How you doing today, Noah?
I'm doing good, man. Just got up early. Had to go get a oil change real quick, but doing good. Ready to talk about some sports.
All right, so let's go ahead and do that then. So I think we should start talking about the UFC and their final main card of the year. UFC 296. It was Saturday, and it was a pretty good card. I'm not going to lie to you. I enjoyed it. I watched from the prelims all the way to the main event, and I was balancing that with uh, NFL football at the same time. So and I was at work. So I had so much stuff I was worried about. Um, it was a good card though. Leon Edwards defeated Colby Covington via decision. That's what I figured was going to happen. I didn't
Mhm.
see Leon Edwards knocking out Colby just due to how tough of a chance Colby Covington had. But that fight was kind of weird, and we're gonna dive into it a little bit more in depth shortly. But that was such a weird fight. Um, Alessandro Pantoja defeated Brandon Royval to retain his UFC flyweight championship. Shavkat Rakhmonov choked out Stephen Thompson in the second round. Paddy Pimblett beat Tony Ferguson via decision, and Josh Emmett had one of the scariest, most brutal knockouts in UFC history when he threw a nasty overhand one punch that just shut Bryce Mitchell's lights out. Um, we had some good prelim fights as well. Alonzo Menifield versus Dustin Jacoby in the light heavyweight division was really good. Irene Aldana versus Carol Rosa was probably fight of the night, easily for me. That was such a back and forth war by those two women. And then Cody Garbrandt versus Brian Kelleher. No Cody, no love. Garbrandt still got some smoke left in him, so he gave it to Brian in that fight. But let's start off with Leon versus Colby. Um, it was a highly anticipated match. I'm sure you heard the trash talk between the two, really from Colby Covington,
Yeah,
um, in the lead up to the fight, with him referencing Leon Edwards' Leon's dead father. He was murdered
murdered
when
the
he was like
father.
13. He said Leon was going to meet him in hell after Colby got through with him. And it was, Colby Covington he's kind of like, he's adopted a persona similar to a WWE wrestler. Like
Yeah,
he embraces being a heel in the UFC. He embraces being the bad guy. He embraces not having people like him. He embraces fighters not liking him. He embraces the crowd not liking him. But there is such thing as too far.
definitely. And I think there's no problem, and we need antagonists to, in my opinion. I mean, that's a whole aspect of entertainment. but there's definitely a certain line you're not supposed to cross, and I think he more than crossed that line. He flat out stood over the line and erased it and set the line where he wanted it to be. So I think
Right.
it was definitely a classless moment, definitely a very classless moment. I think there's nothing wrong with being an antagonist. Like I said, you don't always have to be the person that the crowd cheers for, even though the crowd was still cheering for him and saying
Yeah.
USA because it was in America, but it's still that was a bad moment.
It was, and it's not the first time we've seen him do something where it's like the lines are kind of blurred with, is that trash talk or is he being a character or what's acceptable and what's not? Um, but you know, being a kid and seeing your father, or just hearing or seeing or however the situation turned out that your father was murdered, like you can hear it in the post fight. Leon was just getting emotional talking about it.
Yeah, his
Um,
voice was shaking. I mean,
yeah,
you could
I
tell.
mean, it was just one of the things where it's like, yeah, you don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. Um, and like I said, it's Kobe. He is a very polarizing figure. But after he said that, it's like, yeah, you don't deserve anything. You don't deserve any success, honestly. With if that's what you're doing to help sell the fight, or if that's what you're doing to get into the mind of your opponent, if that's what you need to do to, you know, show how you're going to beat your opponent, you don't deserve it.
Yeah,
Let's just be real. You don't deserve it.
and I'm glad that
You-
Sean Strickland called him out on it as well.
yeah, because Sean Strickland is the definition of someone who, why he doesn't care about what he says. He doesn't he what he says has more so to do with him going against the grain of what's acceptable in mainstream culture with the words he says. But I've never hear Sean Strickland talking about his opponent's father, kids, wife, um, in a demoralizing manner.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, and I was just in a build up to the fight, and Leon was clearly disturbed by what he was saying, and in the post fight interview, he said that it took a lot of restraint to, keep his resolve, keep his composure, make sure he maintains focus, make sure he maintains his emotions in the fight. Um, and honestly, I think he did a pretty good job at that.
oh yeah, no,
Um,
definitely. I mean, the way he came out, the whole time he just kind of looked like a tiger stalking his prey. Like
man,
he didn't seem like he was overly emotional. It didn't seem like he was flailing, trying to get a knockout that wasn't there. He
right,
looked cool. You couldn't tell that he was phased by anything that Kobe said.
at all. It was a weird fight. When it was a good fight for the first 4 rounds for Leon Edwards.
Yeah.
Um, it was a lot of stance switching between the two in the first round. Colby is a natural southpaw. So is Leon Edwards. But they were both switching to orthodox and southpaw, just trying to, it's something called the open stance matchup in fighting, and it's when one opponent is orthodox and the other is southpaw. And when that's the case, just a lot of stuff is opened up that wouldn't be if y'all were both in a closed stance where y'all both are in the same fighting position. And they both knew that. That's why Leon was switching every time Kobe was switching, and vice versa. And round one, Kobe was ultra cautious, like more timid and cautious
We've
than
ever
I had
seen
ever
Kobe
seen him
fight.
ever in a fight. He was mostly on the back foot. He didn't produce much offense, if any. Leon tagged him a couple of times with some good left hands. He defended one of Kobe's takedowns early. That was a theme of the night. Kobe only landed what 2 out of 10 takedowns. So that's what on a 20% rate versus Leon Edwards, who landed the same amount in 3 attempts. Uh, and this is Colby Covington, who was an All-American wrestler. That was his background. That was one of the things that was, I guess, going for him leading up into the fight. Um, when we last talked about it on the last show before the fight, I said while Colby isn't particularly super special at anything, the closest thing he would be, you know, his wrestling is his, well, I guess his cardio is his best thing. His pace, his cardio, his endurance, his durability, all of that, and then his wrestling. But he wasn't particularly super special, super amazing at any one thing. He was a great all around fighter, and that's what made him dangerous. But he was going against someone who was super, super, super great at one thing, and that's Leon Edwards and his kickboxing, his striking.
Striking, yeah. He was putting on a striking clinic. I mean, just he had his, and it was mentioned during the actual fight, he had his back to the center of the mat pretty much the whole time. Almost
Yeah.
everything except maybe the fifth round because it was mostly on the ground. But he
Mhm.
pretty much had, like you said, he had Colby on his back foot almost the entire fight, and just striking. You could see Colby was looking for something, searching for a mistake the entire time. That Leon pretty much on feet had no mistakes, like almost a flawless
Nope.
display of striking. And I just think it was just too much for Colby to overcome. But I will say you could kind of tell in Leon's wrestling that he really wanted to finish to submit him
Yeah.
because a lot of the moves you see, he wasn't focused on defending, like defending a lot of the wrestling transitions and stuff. He was
Mhm.
going for his own, going
Oh
always
yeah.
looking to be on offense. And I think part of that was the emotions of, he even said after the fight he was absolutely looking for the finish, 100%. So I think that was one thing that, even though Leon looked a little, especially that fifth round where he spent almost the whole time, out of control,
Yeah.
I don't think it's as worrisome as it looked because, emotions were high in that fight.
It was, and um, you're right. Like Leon on the feet, that was probably the most stark difference in striking ability I've seen between two fighters in a very long time. Like Leon, like watching him hit pads is a universe of its own. I go hit pads and I'm thinking I'm doing something. I can watch him hit pads and everything is so violent. It's so quick. And it translates to his fights. Um, Against Colby, he was so quick and precise with his striking. Like he controlled the pace for the entire first and second round. Um, he had perfect distance management, utilized kicking Colby's inside lead leg early, and that really started to take an
Yeah,
effect,
that you could see that
especially
leg
in
a
round
lot.
three. Like Kobe looked just uncomfortable attempting to close the distance with Leon. Like he just looked uncomfortable. He looked like he didn't want to take the chance of closing the distance because of how precise Leon was striking, because of how quick he was striking. Um, it was it's one of those things where I've dealt with it in sparring. I haven't had to feel it in a real fight, but in sparring, when I'm going against someone who, the rare occasion, someone is longer than me, the and oftentimes when I'm going against heavyweights or I'm going against training partners who are bigger than me, I have to you know think like, okay, I can't just
Yeah,
close the distance how I
every
would against
mistake
someone
will
who's
be a lot
smaller.
more. Yeah, every mistake will be a
Exactly.
lot more deadly against,
Yes.
something like that.
He's someone who is really good at striking, or someone who is really good at, or is really strong. And in Leon's case, it was just, he's so precise. Everything he didn't, and that was a fight where he didn't throw no knees, he didn't throw any elbows. Um, it was that was a whole aspect of his game that he didn't even get to utilize. Um, and like you said, with the the statement Leon was trying to make by taking him to the ground, submitting him. Um, it was interesting to see, and that's one of the reasons why it was such a weird fight. Not just because Kobe didn't look like himself in that fight, but Leon was, actively trying to work for a submission. He took him down on purpose.
Mhm.
he was reversing positions. He was like, for example, the first takedown Colby Covington landed was in the third, but Leon quickly got back up and then landed his own takedown. So Leon Edwards is the first man to take down Usman, when the first man ever in the UFC, when Colby Covington couldn't do it. And he fought him twice, right? And then he did it to Colby Covington. Um, so if we're just looking at just the optics of how that sounds and just looking at that, Leon is just he's beating the two people that had been bullying the weight class for the last 4 or 5 years. Um, and yeah, it was like he said in the post conference, the post fight interview. He wanted to make a point. We could all tell that when someone who says that stuff about your family, someone who is he's just a thorn in your side. Like Cody, he's just annoying to hear. He's just annoying to be around. I'm sure we've all been around people where it's just like they're just frustrating. Like they just irk you. Um,
Irritant.
just and he's Kobe's one of those people. And that you know, besides the one thing I didn't like about it, I was trying to find a way to phrase it. Um, was you could still see some of the holes in Leon's grappling game. He would step over when would step over when taking the back, and instead of getting the hooks in, he would be too high up on Kobe when he was trying to um, take the back, and he would end up on bottom. You could just see some of the holes still present in Leon's game, and it's cool that he was able to utilize his training in a fight. But you're the champ in that fifth round. You don't want to make you don't want anything to go wrong. You ended up on the bottom for most of the fight. Um, you ended the fight on your back. You know,
Yes,
it it
bad
it, it,
optics. Bad
it
optics for
just doesn't
sure.
look good. Like clearly he won the first 4 rounds. Clearly, but you never know what happens in fight. That's 5 minutes,
Yeah, no,
and
definitely.
just how it looked.
There were
Well,
some
go ahead.
times in the fifth where I was honestly getting a little concerned just because of how like you said, he ended the fight on his back. There were times in that fifth round where I was like, if this stretches on a little bit too long, too much longer, he might mess around and lose
Exactly.
this fight in the fifth.
Exactly.
So there
And
was
and,
definitely
and
some holes that and like you said, bad optics. You don't want to end. You're a champ. You don't want to end the fight on your back.
right. And that's just from just a judge's perspective. Like just we've seen horrible judges in all levels of sports, especially the UFC, or all levels of fighting, especially in the UFC. Um, so who knows what could have happened? You just don't want to end a round on your back as champ if you don't need to, you know. Um, but Leon had some amazing takedown defense, some amazing striking as per usual. He didn't overcommit on a single strike during that whole fight. Um, and you could tell how great of a striker he was and how it was having an effect on uh, Kobe. It was Kobe started to bite on feints. He started to flinch. He started to anticipate what Leon was going to throw, um, rather than just reacting. And once look, just from my own what am I trying to say? What's the word?
Experience.
Experience. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why that was hard for me to conjure up. Just from my own experience, once you get someone biting at your fence, oh man,
Cooked.
as a striker, that's the best thing in the world because now I can do anything I want to you, and you're going to be scared. It showed because once you establish those attacks early in a fight like Leon did, it just opens up the rest of your game. Leon has definitely shown his evolution as a champion. It was a good fight for him. He, like I said, he beat Kamaru Usman twice, beat him for the belt, looked even better in his title defense. Came back, beat Colby Covington, who pretty much skipped the line. Um, So he got him up on out of there in a thorough fashion. Like there is no need for a rematch. And honestly, there's no need for Colby Covington to even miss a championship opportunity for a very long time.
Yeah.
He looked slow. He looked, I don't want to say old, but he looked slow. The ring rust definitely showed. That was the first time he fought in over 670 days. Like, come on. So he doesn't need to fight for a championship or a top. Honestly, I don't know. I'm not gonna say a top contender, but he doesn't need to fight for a championship. You need to talk about championship for a very
Oh,
long
yeah.
time.
He's got a minute. He's definitely got a
Yeah,
minute.
because he was horrible in the build up. He was horrible for most of the fight. Um, and he was horrible afterwards. Like he first thing he did was make excuses. Um, talking about some ring rust. First time I fought in a long time, and man, I don't want to hear none of that, bro. Because that ring rust wasn't in effect when your ass was talking about this man's dead father. That ring
Yeah.
rust wasn't in effect when you were talking about all the things you were going to do to him. Like that, I don't want to hear nothing about no ring rust. You know that's something that you consider in the build up for the fight. You're like, maybe I shouldn't piss this man off too badly. Maybe I shouldn't do this. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I should kind of make myself as gracious as possible in the eyes of the crowd, just in case that ring rust is real. Um, but no, you're an idiot. So you first thing you want to do was make excuses, and then you turn into a sponsor for Donald Trump after you lost. First thing you said was talking about some thank you to all the first responders. Okay, I got that. And then talking about some, well, yeah, Trump was robbed of his election just like I was robbed of this fight. Shut up. Like, what are you talking about, bro? Like that was like that's such a just man, like I don't know, but Kobe just
Yeah,
irritates me.
no, yeah. Just like you said, in general, just an irritant. But he shouldn't be seeing a belt in a very long, or a chance at a belt for a very long time.
No time soon. Maybe instead he should just maybe quit fighting and become a full-time endorser for Donald Trump in his 2024 campaign. I don't know. Maybe he'll get paid more handsomely. Who knows? Uh, and as far as the rest of the welterweight division goes, what's the next for Leon Edwards? Perhaps what's the on the rumor right now is it's going to be Belal Muhammad versus Leon Edwards. They have unfinished business
Yeah, I think.
in the 13 fights that Leon hasn't lost in. Only one of them was a no contest, and that was the fight against Belal Muhammad. It was an accidental eye poke that got the fight called off. Um, so we'll have to see how they do, or how Leon looks, or how both of them looks in the rematch. Because honestly, that should be Bilal is the rightful fighter to go next against Leon, or to challenge Leon next. But there is a possibility, there is a slight chance that the UFC says, hold up, Bilal, you aren't the most entertaining of fighters. You grind your way to decisions, and you know we got this other killer in your division that is over here
Yeah,
finishing everyone in the same weight class as you. He's finishing everyone. He's 18-0 with 18 finishes, and his name is Shavkat Rakhmonov. So if you want to get to Belal Muhammad, or you want to get to Leon Edwards, you're gonna have to beat Shavkat,
yeah.
and
I
you're
was
gonna have to
gonna.
prove a point.
Yeah, I was definitely gonna mention that. Honestly, like, I'm. It's a lot of talks going around. Just a lot of confusion, a lot of not knowing, the next step. But I mean, Shavkat he's a killer, bro. Like
Oh yeah,
I mean, I'm glad we were able to segue that perfectly into his fight, because I mean he just looks virtually unstoppable right now.
he does. He does. He beat Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in the on the main card last night, or on Saturday, and it wasn't the fight I expected. I expected them to just be flat out, man. We're going to see a clash of styles between a karate style kickboxer and pretty much a, a, the Terminator. Like that's what I thought it was going to be. But instead, we got a fight. It was heavy clinch for Shavkat. He wanted to take down Stephen Thompson and just grind him. And it turns out that the reason why was Shavkat. It was he messed his ankle up. I can't remember the what was he? He had an ankle injury before UFC 296, and it could have caused him to cancel the fight. Um,
I didn't know
but
about
he said in the post-fight press conference, he said he nearly pulled out. But it was, and that's why one of his said that's why he said that he wanted to be better. He wanted to get a finish on the feet. Um, but I mean, look, the man still choked out Stephen Thompson.
that.
So despite the ankle injury, he wasn't slowed down too much. He still
Yeah,
had the
clearly.
100% finishing rate, which is crazy. Um, so it was it's a interesting landscape for the welterweight division. Um, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, I didn't think he was going to win this fight. No way in hell he was going to win that fight. Um, in the beginning, you could kind of see the the difference in styles early. Um, and yeah, Shavkat ain't want none of that, none of those problems with that bum ankle. So he took him down. He had a total 7 minutes and 45 seconds of control time. Um, he got him out with a rear naked choke in the second round.
With like
Had him in the
10
clinch
seconds in the
majority.
second round, too.
Oh yeah, Stephen Thompson almost made it out. Uh, and that's one of the things that my coaches taught me too. Like just as I'm learning my transition into MMA, it's always to look for the finish. Always look for the finish, no matter how much time is there. Uh, if you get into a position to finish your opponent, don't just hug him. Don't. That's not your time to rest. Um, go for it. You see the choke
Yeah,
open up, go for it. You see the Kimura open up, go for it. You see the triangle open up, go for it. You see the armbar, go for it. No matter how much time is left. Um, and
what
that killer
Connor
instinct is
say
what, yeah,
Connor say in the the classic video, what I'm saying, you jab, roll, what I'm saying, and you're here,
oh
you
yeah,
gotta, get you gotta
yeah,
stay in,
right.
and that video is so hilarious to me. But yeah, like you
It
said,
is.
always gotta be searching for that finish no matter how much time is on the clock, because I mean, like you said, he tapped with like 6 seconds left in the round.
Yeah, the fight was called off with 4 minutes and 56 seconds. So 4 seconds left in the round,
Even
and
worse.
he tapped out. Um, so yeah, with you know, that is just what I would like to see would be Shavkat versus Belal. Just
Hello?
because
Yeah.
I know Belal and Leon Edwards have unfinished business. I know that. But we can't sit up there and deny Shavkat his right. Like Shavkat is the killer. 100% finishing rate, 18-0. He gets all his opponents out. We've seen him get pushed through the fire. We've seen him against Jeff Neal, who is super tough opponent. Any other man, like anyone worse than Shavkat, is not beating Jeff Neal. Um, we've seen what Shavkat is able to do. I think that will give Leon Edwards some problems, more so than Belal Muhammad. I think that a Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad at the rate that Leon Edwards is ascending as a fighter, it would just be similar to what we just saw against Colby Covington. Only just more pace from Belal. Belal's not going to sit up there and be hesitant. But after Leon Edwards, such a world class kickboxer, it's going to slow down Belal in the same rate that it did Colby. I think that someone who's a little bit more vicious, a little bit more violent, like Shavkat, would be harder for Leon Edwards. Um,
It's a little bit more unforgiving. You're
right,
not.
like Shavkat wants to get in there and hurt you. I can't say the same about the way Belal fights. I can't say the same way about how Colby Covington fights. I couldn't say the same thing about how Kamaru Usman fights. So all of these all the people that Leon Edwards has fought or is possibly fighting, Shavkat is the toughest in my eyes. That's not a man that you're going to be able to dance around and keep it clean and pretty against. It's going to be a nasty fight.
Like literally Terminator.
Literally, that's exactly every time I see him fight, that's what I think of. He's just stone faced. He wants to go out there and hurt you in the most efficient way possible. And when it push comes to shove, if he got to damn turn up and get bloody, it's all good. That's literally his way of thinking and his way of fighting. Um, we got the co-main event: Alexandre Pantoja versus Brandon Royval in the flyweight division. Uh, Pantoja won via unanimous decision, and it was a good fight. Alexander Pantoja is just showing that he is the top of the flyweight division. Um, he he started the fight off like unusually really strong. Like he came out and in the first 10 seconds he threw one of the hardest kicks of the entire fight. Like just came out and just blasted him with the kick to the body. It was and he just stayed in his face, kicked him hard, walked him down, kicked him hard again, walked him down. Like it looked like, but I don't know. It just looked, it was so odd. Um, but and then he ended up slowing down near the end, probably around the end of the third, going to the fourth. You could see for sure that Pantoja, his stamina started to deplete.
Hmm.
Brandon Royval, he couldn't stay off the ground. He couldn't get his hands going. He could well, how do I want to put this? He couldn't prevent Pantoja from controlling the pace early in the fight. In the first two rounds, it was all Pantoja. Striking wise, control time, taking him down. But Pantoja landed 8 out of his 14 takedowns. That's a 57% clip. Royval couldn't stop anything.
Hmm.
And that's pretty much, that's a staple of how Royval fights. Like his takedown defense is 40% across all of his fights. That's not good. Like, that's not good at all. So
Yeah,
that just shows that there's a hole in your game, and if you want to get another crack at the title, you're gonna have to tighten that up. Um,
definitely.
as we got close to the end of the fight, like in the fifth round, Brandon Royval opened up a lot more. He threw so much more hands. Um, in the fifth round, it was he outstruck uh, Pantoja 55-41 in the significant strikes department. Um,
He actually took
he
the
got
fifth
taken down
round.
again. Say again?
Oh, I was saying, yeah, he got took down for fifth round.
Yeah, he got taken down twice. And he was held down for 2 minutes and 43 seconds in that fifth round. You gotta tighten that up because clearly your hands were better, or your hands were better than Pantoja's in the latter half of the fight. You started to see success. Honestly, your hands were better than Pantoja's for the entirety of the fight. You were the better striker, but it's mixed martial arts. So I don't care how boring you might see it or how boring it may be to see a wrestler or a jujitsu grappler dominate their opponent on the ground or keep taking their opponent down. But it's mixed martial arts. You got to be able to stop that, especially if once the higher and higher you move up, the higher and higher your overall mixed martial arts has to be. Um,
Yeah, and just such a glaring, like you said, it's evident to everyone. You don't have to be a UFC, long timer to see such a glaring hole in his overall game. And like you said, the higher and higher you go, everything has to be up here. You can't just be the best striker and have the worst takedown defense and think you're gonna get away with it against fighters like Pantoja.
Right. And even in the times that we've seen it, like we saw like we were just talking about it earlier, but Leon Edwards, he in the second fight against Kamaru Usman, the man was losing the whole fight. he was down 4-0, and it was about to be 5-0 until he got that immaculate head kick knockout. But a reason for that was the grappling. Leon Edwards got drained. His stamina got drained, not just due to the altitude of being in Salt Lake City, but just the constant grappling that Kamaru Usman put on him. And afterwards, guess what? Next time they fought, his takedown defense was supremely better, a complete 180. And he's just been building that. So even if you do win the belt as a pure striker, you're going to have to solidify your ground game one way or another. You have to. If it's from preventing people from taking you down, it's one thing. But once you get to the ground, how are you going to survive? How are you going to work your way back up? How are you going to find a way to finish your opponent on the ground as well? Like present them a challenge of being on the ground. And hats off to Alexander Pantoja for being so adept in that department. Like I said, he landed 8 out of his 14 takedowns. You know, Brandon Royval, he outstruck him by a significant margin, like 281 to 126. But none of those strikes were damaging enough to where the fight was being swayed to the opposite direction. The only time it really was starting to take effect was in the beginning of the 5th round when he opened up and he was landing everything before Alexander took him down. I don't know why you call him Alexander. Sorry. So yeah, and it was evident on the scorecards. One judge scored it 50-45, another scored it 50-45, which means all 5 rounds went to Pantoja. And then one scored at 49-46. So I assume they gave the 5th round to
it was a 5th round.
Royval. So yeah, it was a good fight for Pantoja. Like I said, Royval, he got to tighten up his ground game. You can't 40% takedown defense. That means you're not stopping anyone. Like you're not stopping anyone from taking you down. So and then he has to tighten that up if you want, because Royval is a great striker. He's long for his weight class. He's like I said, he's so much better striking than most of his division. I can see him being your champion in the future, but not with that 40% takedown defense. That is too much of a glaring hole for someone to ignore going into the fight. Like you go against someone like Brandon Moreno, he's going to want to take you down too.
And the way his defense is looking, he's going to get it every time.
Exactly. So again, that was that. We got Paddy Pimblett versus Tony Ferguson.
We both ended up being wrong on that one.
Man. and if I'm being honest, you know, it's over for Tony. It was pretty significant from just fights ago. His 6-fight losing streak. You don't just go on a 6-fight losing streak for no reason. And it was just nostalgia hitting me. It was I wanted to see him win.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. That's what I said. That's what we said that in the last one. It came from a place of wanting to see Tony pull that off, but
and it was just man, I know he can. I've seen this man. I've seen what he can do. I know he can beat him, but it's firstly, old man or not old man. Father Time catches up to everyone, and then the UFC, when you take such significant damage that Tony Ferguson has taken in the last 6 fights before Paddy Pimblett, it's it gets to you. It gets to you. Paddy Pimblett he in the first round he almost finished him. He knocked him down. Used his hands to really wear on Tony Ferguson early. I don't know how Tony Ferguson survived. Honestly, I don't know how he survived that round. I was looking at it like, please make it.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna lie. I thought it was over in the first. It was looking very bad.
He outstruck Tony Ferguson 151-90. Most of it was on the ground, but he ended the fight with 8 minutes and almost 9 minutes of control time. It's a 15-minute fight. So it was a Tony Ferguson was the way he lost, or the reason he lost was he was too comfortable being on his back. And in the times I've trained jujitsu, there's a lot of things you can do from the back. We've seen finishers in the UFC like Charles Oliveira. He is so adept at finishing on his back. Most of his finishes, he has the most submissions in UFC history. Most of them has came when he's on his back. Um, Tony Ferguson, even in his 12 fight win streak when he was interim UFC champ, uh, he got a lot of finishes off his back. But in MMA, especially with the way Paddy Pimblett was approaching him, he was ready. He was ready to hold you down and ground and pound you. Like Paddy Pimblett wasn't looking for no submissions. Not that I saw. He
No,
was looking
not
to
at all.
just beat your face in. So he only landed like one takedown. I think that's what I'm looking at in the stats. He landed one takedown, all 1 out of 4 takedowns, but he still ended up with 9 minutes
9
of
minutes
control
of
time.
control.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Um, it
Yeah, and
was.
Pat, but one thing about Patty though, I'm not gonna lie, it's his striking. He's that unorthodox style. I still think if he were to go against a serious power counter puncher, like
Mhm.
I just some of the swings I saw him taking, even when he got his rush in at the start, like his arm was all the way back here, and it's like anybody that's not tiny. And this is what we talked about last week, where we said he hasn't really fought any serious, what we can consider like a serious challenge, because any serious counterpuncher is gonna destroy him anytime he has, like, his swings are just so wide and things of that sort. And I just think, like, going forward, if he for him to be legit, that's something he has to tighten up.
Absolutely, because look, we it's a lot of the same problems presented itself in that fight. He would There was times where his chin was tied up. There's times when
Literally.
he's taking these wild swings, and uh, yeah, he's a big boy. Like he's a big boy. He When he got Tony Ferguson down, in the third round, Tony was looking. What I'm saying, he almost locked up the armbar. He almost locked up a triangle. He was getting his submission attempts off, but you like I said, you're only going up from here. Jared Gordon, he should have lost that fight. And Jared Gordon, he's a tough, tough man. He should have lost that fight. And this is something that is just a continuous trend now. It's kind of like with Ryan Garcia in boxing. Everything was cool until he fought Tank Davis. He was getting away with having his chin all the way up when he was throwing that left hook. He got away with having his arm down when he was throwing that left hook. He was getting away with it with lesser competition. That's nothing to take away from the men that he's beaten. It's not. But this is just to say you only go up. If you're winning, you're only going to go up. So you're in the lightweight division. You're going to look at the people who are ranked: Drew Dober, Bobby Green, Benoit Saint Denis, even the old heads like Rafael Dos Anjos, Jalen Turner. Like you got a lot of Dan Hooker, Jalen Turner. Like you know what I'm saying. Those are just the bottom, the from number 10 down to 15 in the lightweight division. We don't even want to go up. So we will have to see if he can tighten up his striking and his technique and his form, because I was looking at it, I'm like, man, Tony, if you would get just a little bit more violent, if you would just take a little bit more chances at making the fight nasty. One thing I say, and just in fighting period, if you know you can't keep up with an opponent, Like if you know you can't keep up with the person standing across from you, whether it's striking or if it's striking, or if it's pace, or if it's anything of that manner, make the fight nasty. You know what I'm saying? Make the fight nasty. Don't sit up there and try to strike with him at range and box with him and keep it clean and punch, kick and this and that. Bro, close the distance, throw some elbows, throw some knees, clinch him, make it nasty. Dig your chin into his neck, put your head under his chin, dig your if you're on the ground, dig your elbow into his side, make it as nasty as possible, make it uncomfortable for him, make it to where you have he make him work for positions that are uncomfortable. And I really think that Tony Ferguson could have benefited from that. Like one of his, I learned how to throw some of these elbows from watching Tony Ferguson back in his prime. A lot of the elbows I throw, I learned from him. He didn't throw any elbows in that fight. He didn't get, well, at least on the feet. He did someone who was on the ground, but on standing, close the distance, throw some nasty elbows. That's what made you successful when you were interim champ, when you were on that 12 fight win streak. We didn't see any of that. And it just disappointed me just to see one of the people that got me super into the sport. One of the people I was watching through high school go out that way, because I really thought that was a winnable fight for him. It
Yeah,
really was.
just a sad, like you said, father time catches us all, and it, like you said, a sad fall from grace for Tony Ferguson to go out on such a bad losing streak. If I'm assuming he's finished, we haven't heard anything. I don't think we've heard any confirmation yet, but if I'm assuming, he's finished, just tough to see one of the, greats go out that way. But there's definitely, like you said, it was a very winnable fight for him.
Yeah, I really thought so. It was disappointing to see, honestly. Man, like with that, I think that's about it for UFC. That's the last card of the year, period. Not just main card, but UFC
Well,
fight nights. UFC
at
everything.
least that's it for the official fighting. We had a little bit of mingling
Oh
in the
yeah, oh
crowd
yeah.
between
I just almost
Strickland
forgot
and
about that.
Duplessis. So
Yeah,
um
that's stupid shit. Whoever, not even whoever, it was Dana White. You fucking man, that was such a. You got
I,
two fighters who don't like each other. Sean Strickland doesn't like anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like he doesn't like anyone that he currently is that's in his division. Um, so you're going to sit up there and you're going to place Duplessis 2 rows behind him at UFC 296. They just got out of a press conference where I can't even repeat what Sean Strickland called him, but it was it was heated. They're fighting in less than a month, or just less than a month. Um, it was apparently Duplessis said something that ticked off Sean Strickland, um, and Sean Strickland kindly told
he
Gilbert Burns
moved
to
had to move
move out
out,
the way,
told his family to scoot over real
then
quick.
hopped over 2 chairs and started beating on the man that he's fighting in less than a month. And Dana White was the person who put them together. So we know your game. You're not slick.
Marketing.
We know what you want to do. That is a very risky maneuver, because if somebody really got hurt, your main card of the new year is off. So that was risky, but I'm not gonna sit up there and act like that man didn't do that on purpose. That wasn't negligence. That was purposeful. I'm excited for that. That's what I'm excited for, because Sean Strickland, it's going to be a very interesting matchup. Duplessis, I'm still kind of hesitant on him. I don't, I I see him winning the belt by some super crazy flash knockout. Like it's not going to be. I don't know, because he beat Robert Whitaker. I'm not going to take nothing away from him. But when he did the strike that knocked Robert Whitaker down, Duplessis wasn't even looking. He had his eyes closed. So I'm just saying, like Sean Strickland, he's a great boxer. The way he fought against Izzy, I hope he can replicate that because it was such a complete fight that it was such a complete performance. And you're doing that against the cream of the crop. I'm gonna assume you can do that against you know more challengers, someone who isn't as great as
I was
Izzy.
gonna say, isn't even as good a striker as Izzy.
So it's gonna be. But DDP, he wants to make it nasty. He wants to clench you up. He wants to drag you to the ground. He wants to hold you down and ground and pound you. He wants to wear on you. That's what's gonna be. That's what makes it an interesting matchup. Sean Strickland, he knows how to wrestle. He knows how to stop, take down defense. He wants to keep it on the feet. So I'm not gonna sit up there and act like Sean Strickland is helpless when it goes to the ground. Um, I got Sean Strickland winning that though, for sure. I got Strickland winning that. I'm betting on the favorite.
That's a far out prediction, but I would say Strickland as well, even though we still got a little bit of time left. But I'll definitely say I would lean Strickland as well. I think just his, I mean, his striking is just like he's a boxer. He's gonna, like you say, he's not helpless on the feet either. Helpless on the ground either. So I think Strickland, I think he pulls that out. I don't see a finish. If it is finished, I think Duplessis is going to be the winner. But if it's decision, I think Strickland's going to win.
Honestly, I do see I see a knockout either way. If it's DDP who gets it, I'm telling you, it's gonna be a flash knockout. It's gonna be some shit that nobody sees coming. It's gonna be such like I don't want to say luck. I don't like using luck in fighting, but it's gonna be like
Just a little
how
less
did he land that?
precise.
Like, dude, how did he land that? Like that was such a he just threw it. And if Kobe knocks him out, it's gonna be not Kobe. When Strickland knocks him out, it's gonna be he's gonna do it with his hands. He's just gonna. What I saw against Izzy and that crisp striking is going to translate. It's going to translate to DDP. Like I know we're like still a month away, but just from what I've seen, the evolution of Strickland, if he takes his fight seriously, if he if he's on his A game, which I know he will be, I don't see DDP winning, not at all.
Yeah, on the feet, I think Strickland especially in middleweight is almost unmatched right now.
Absolutely. I just got a notification that there are $40 standing room only tickets for the Hawks versus Grizzlies with no John Morant. You can
Wait,
go
John
to
didn't come back today?
does he?
I thought he
Is this
comes
been
back
25
today.
games?
I
Let's see.
swear Ja comes back today because I think this been 25. I'm pretty sure. Oh, he plays basketball tonight.
Oh Lord. When is that? When is that game? December
Demon
23rd.
home. Demon home.
Yeah.
Interesting to see
25
what
games and quit.
let me see. Yeah, interesting to see how that Grizzlies team is gonna look. They've obviously looked very rough through this 25 game suspension. So
Yeah, 6-19. That is horrible. That is horrible. That is trash. Them boys just don't. They're not playing. So they do. I don't think they just said fuck it. If John Morant's out, we out.
yeah, well, I think part of that comes from losing Steven Adams, losing Dylan Brooks, Steven
Yeah.
Adams was an injury, but losing Dylan Brooks in the offseason, just it's not the same team it was last year or the year before that when 20 and 22 without him or 20 and 2 without him, something like
Yeah.
that. So definitely a little not as complete a team, definitely. And he's gonna show his worth more this year than he's ever has, assuming he's still as good as he was. You will see that difference much
Oh yeah,
more
no
this
doubt.
year.
Hopefully so. I'm about to start tuning in as we're winding down the NFL season, especially the UFC is off. I'm gonna be tuning into much more games around the league. I really just been watching the Hawks and the Warriors and Lakers, just the teams that are relevant to me in my willingness to watch this early in the season besides the in-season tournament. So we have a lot of basketball to talk in a
I was gonna
future
say,
episode.
I
We're
know
getting close to
basketball wasn't on the menu tonight, but I gotta ask, were you a little worried yesterday?
with the Hawks and the
The
Pistons,
Hawks
bro.
and Pistons.
The Hawks are just so disappointing. Like that's all they do is disappoint me. And I seriously, I was watching the game, and I was like, bro,
If anybody, it'll be
I'm not
Hawks.
surprised. I'm not surprised.
Honestly,
And
I'm nervous. I'm nervous that if the Pistons losing streak makes it to January 5th, that's when they play the Warriors. I think I would not be surprised if we were the ones, man. I would, because at this point, you don't want to be the team that ends a historic losing streak. Bro.
yeah, that's a lot of that's what put a lot of pressure on you, bro. Especially if you're already not playing well. Like you're like, dude, like that's why I was concerned about the Hawks. We only had won 9 games. We lost like 4 or 5 in a row. Or no, we beat the Raptors, so never mind. But before then, we were losing. Like we haven't improved as a team. We haven't found any synergy. We haven't evolved as a team. We've digressed significantly. So when the Pistons came around, and it so happened to be the day after the Falcons lost to the Panthers, I'm like, bro, we would just go ahead and just cap this whole. This would just be the, I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. This is one of and Atlanta would be the team to do it. It would be the city to do it because Atlanta is where all records are made. In a worse way as well. So
wrong side of history.
I got something for the Hawks coming soon. I have a dedicated rant about because I don't care how many games we win in a row. Nothing is going to change my mind about how we are as a team. So one day in the future, on the future Henry Roy episode, y'all gonna get my full unbridled opinion on the Falcons or the Hawks because coming up very shortly, I have some shit to say about the Falcons. So let's go ahead and talk about the NFL so I can get there. We're going to start with what matters first. I'm not going to waste y'all's time with the Falcons ring off jump. Let's go into the Monday night game. Seattle Seahawks versus Philadelphia Eagles. Seahawks beat the Eagles 20-17 in a great game. It came down to a Drew Lock game-winning drive from 93 yards back. He started on his own, like it was inside the 10 of his own end zone. So he drove all the way down the field. He put them up with the touchdown pass to Jackson Smith and no, was it?
Yeah, it was Jason.
Yeah, Jackson Smith and how you say his fucking last name?
Njigba. Yeah. Great catch, by the way. He caught it. I don't know if you saw the picture of it, but he caught it like on the very tips in the rain, on the very tips of his fingertips. It was great throw, great catch. But yeah, Drew Lock, 92-yard game-winning touchdown drive in the year of our Lord.
That was a great drive. Period. Like,
oh yeah,
honestly, I don't know. Like, we can sit there and nitpick at the Philadelphia Eagles, which we will. But that last drive,
it started rough.
92 yards.
It started rough with Noah Fant dropping a very catchable pass, but after that, it was just DK, Noah, JSN, DK. Like it was literally like they weren't making any mistakes after that. I had a couple.
I was say DK caught that ball off of his butt. That kick started that whole drive. Honestly, if he didn't catch that, we're looking at a whole different situation because then it would have been 3rd and 10 at your own 8. Yeah, he caught that shit off of his butt, and that quick kick started everything.
Yeah, and then he also had that deep pass later down that he set up the touchdown. Mm-hmm. So, which by the way felt like a shotgun blast to me because that drive he overtook me in the fantasy playoffs and I lost. Mm. That was very sickening to watch. I was.
Well, that DK pass. That DK
yes,
catch?
Literally that drive. If he didn't get a catch that drive, I would. If he didn't have the yardage he had and catches on that drive, I would have won. But he did. He was quiet all game too.
I'm about to say, what's funny is that the Eagles held him down the whole game until that butt catch
last, and then it all unraveled. But Yeah, it was just that last drive. The Seahawks looked like a team on a mission. They couldn't be stopped almost. And
Nah, that was
it,
very impressive.
but I will say, before we get into the rest of the game, I will say the Eagles had a chance to win that game. They had the ball, obviously the length of the field, 75 yards, with 3 timeouts.
Right.
And they made like 60 seconds and 3 timeouts look like 25 seconds and 1 timeout. Like the way they lost on that deep shot that they didn't need to take. Jake Elliott's been one of the most clutch kickers since he's been in the league. He just against the Bills in the rain hit a 60-yard field goal.
Right.
Like his range is a 60-yard field goal. What's that? The 43. So I don't know why they took an end zone shot that Jalen Hurts did with safety over the top. That led to the game-sealing interception.
That was dumb.
That just like they like I said, they made it seem like they didn't have any timeouts. Like the clock was like it was their enemy, but they made it seem like they didn't have any time left. That they absolutely
and they were
had
down
to take
7.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
Down a touchdown, and you needed an onside kick or something. Like you have one of the best kickers in the league. You start right, so it's a touchback. So you got to drive down 75 yards. You scramble up the middle of the field for 20. So you're getting into range. You call your first timeout. Why not? You have a quarterback who is adept at using his legs. The Seahawks are concerned about a touchdown, so they're dropping back deep every time until the game was over. So why not just take what they're giving you, run up the field,
underneath, middle,
everything's short, right? Instead, you stare down. Who was it? AJ Brown. You stare down AJ Brown. Julian Love was able to cover all of that distance, catch the intercept the pass, bump his leg off of his teammate. That pretty much got him to put the feet down. Toe tap inbounds.
That was an amazing see from the referee too. I thought he was out of bounds, and the fact like they were even like debating it, I was like, was that not very clearly out of bounds? But then they showed the replay. He hit his teammate's leg, and he got that second foot in. Yep. But that just they didn't take. Like I said, they didn't take what the defense was giving to them. They said, "Don't beat us deep." They were cool going into overtime if they had to,
exactly,
because they just didn't want to lose on a game-winning touchdown down the field. And you have all that space in the middle, all that space. They were basically protect the sidelines, protect the deep ball. That's it. Right. And Eagles. I mean, play calling has been suspect this year since Brian Johnson took over the play calling duties anyway. And I don't know if you saw a play earlier in the game that when CMC was on the Manning cast, he literally called out what they were going to do. He said, tight end's going to motion, kick out the DN, Jalen Hurts on a QB draw. So their offense has just become predictable. That's exactly what happened. And their offense has just become predictable. Play calling has been suspect. They've got too many playmakers to be losing 17-20 to the Seahawks with Drew Lock.
And guess what? And not even just that. Not even just let's open up their last few games. In the last, they've lost 3 in a row. And Joe Buck and his hashtag Joe Buck stat. The Eagles have lost ever since Big Dom got ejected from that 49ers game. So Big Dom being up in the box, the owner's box. Yeah, man. The Eagles might be suspect. If you need Big Dom to get you a win, that's horrible. But if we look at Jalen Hurts and this offense, you got all these playmakers, like you said. He hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in his last 3 games. He's thrown 2 interceptions in those 3 games. You've lost to the Seahawks, the Cowboys, the Niners. You haven't scored above 19 points. What are you doing?
Yeah, just and 49ers had the 3-game losing streak. They had a bye week after that. You don't have a bye week. You have to fix this now, or else you are going to sputter your way into the playoffs. essentially choked away the first seed. They're in danger of losing the NFC East. Like
Right.
you
I'm about to
have
say,
to,
yeah, like bro, the Cowboys have life now.
yeah, they have the tiebreaker over the Eagles. So if they win out, if Cowboys win out, they have the NFC East. Now you don't get a home playoff game. And so they're not, this obviously isn't the same Eagles team. And I was a little dismissive of a lot of the Eagles fans' concern, even going into the 49ers game, because they were 10-1. Now everything is apparent that yeah, these were definitely mistakes. They got away with it against lesser teams. You're going against teams that are serious now. You're gonna have to change. You're gonna have to change something. Something's got to change.
Yep, absolutely, and it has to come now. Like you play the Giants twice, then you play the Cardinals in between those two Giants games.
Actually, the easiest strength of schedule remaining in the NFL.
Right, but I'm not gonna sit up there and act like, look, the Giants might not mess around and split one of those games. I'm not gonna put it past Tommy DeVito and just looking at like you said, there's just games where they should have completely destroyed their opponent, yet it came down to the wire. So like we keep referencing, we talked about it on the last show, but their overtime win against the Commanders. You only beat you lost to the Jets with no Aaron Rodgers.
You had to get saved by the Bills. Like that almost wasn't even a win. Jake Elliott hit one of the clutchest field goals in regular season history.
Right, and that was really a Hail Mary field goal because it was raining. Like it was, I was very surprised he hit that. So like I'm not gonna sit up here and say, yeah, man, the Eagles gonna figure this out in these last 3 games. No, even the Cardinals when they played y'all up, they were giving y'all a challenge up until like maybe the 3rd quarter. The game was pretty tight. It was the Cardinals was able to keep up. They were able to keep up. They were able to be tough and give the 49ers, the undisputed best team in the league, problems.
Yeah, part of that was I'm not going to say that the Cardinals aren't. I mean, they're not a very good football team, but part of that was 49ers shooting themselves in the foot. They had a season high 16 missed tackles, which that was rough. So even with that, though,
yeah, I said there goes my point. Look, y'all y'all had 16 missed tackles and they were able to keep up. Now imagine the Eagles with that blown secondary.
Yeah, I was gonna say even
what's going to happen.
The Eagles tackling has been an issue for them all year, and so you're just not gonna get away with you might not even get away with that against the bad teams at this point.
Nope.
You're definitely not gonna get away with that against the good teams.
Yeah,
so they're gonna have to figure something out. They got 3 weeks to climb their way into the 1 seed, even though they don't. I'm sorry, not the 1 seed, to winning the NFC East, even though they don't control their own fate. So the best thing they can do is win out and see what the Cowboys do.
Right. Like it's one of those situations where it is like, yeah, you're gonna have to you have to tighten up, and not just tighten up. Y'all have to make significant changes on both sides of the ball. Like the defense showed better improvement. It showed better improvement. You held DK to 1 catch for pretty much 14 minutes of the game. Right. So you had him to 1 catch most of the game. But you giving it up at the very end was still symptomatic of how y'all's defense been all year,
especially the
offensively. Yeah, the secondary is just horrible, bro. It's horrible. And then offensively, you got Jalen Hurts not throwing a touchdown pass in 3 games. Like the QB, the QB sneak. I'm so sick of them calling it the tush push too. The QB sneak is the only thing that is automatic for y'all. That's a problem. That is a problem. So they have a lot of stuff to change with only 3 weeks left in the season.
Yeah, and it's just like I said, it's gonna look rough in the playoffs if they can't figure something out like now, because their offense has been, like you said, it's just been too much both sides of the ball. If if you only had one thing to figure out, like maybe play calling, offense, one thing, okay, yeah, we can focus on this and let our defense help us to carry us to victory, or
Right.
vice versa. But right now it's everything except special teams. Like, so
Yeah.
it's they, like I said, we said it a bunch of times, they just got to figure it out.
Yeah. Because like at this rate, like you said, now the Cowboys are controlling the NFC East. You're not going to get the 1 seed. Period. Um, you it's very, very plausible, and especially with you losing to you're not just losing to the good teams with the Cowboys and the 49ers, but now you're losing to a team that was fighting to stay in the playoffs with the Seahawks. So, this is just, y'all are spiraling. You know, it's not looking good for the Eagles. And if you're going to spiral, your ass going to spiral right into getting kicked out in the first round. So, it's go ahead.
I said by Dallas or even worse.
Oh yeah, right. Like I said, it's truly possible that we don't the former Super Bowl team of the NFC conference last year might be out very early in the playoffs. Yeah, that was a horrible loss though for them. Like that was y'all they needed that one, especially when it was in y'all's hands. Y'all still could have gone to overtime with it. I couldn't even do that. So yeah, horrible loss for the Eagles. Great win for the Seahawks. Drew Lock looked very good. Great post game interview. Like that was that made me a fan of him.
Yeah, and it's
For him
fun to
to
see him and Gino's chemistry, because Gino, he knows exactly what Drew's going through, how it
yep
feels to be counted out, basically written off and not writing back. And it
yep
was good to see him cheering him on the sideline. I assume he's gonna take his responsibilities back next week, because he was actually healthy this week. They just
yeah
hadn't game planned with him, so he didn't get healthy until late enough for them to changed back over. So I'm assuming Gino's coming back in next week. But it was still a great moment nonetheless to see them supporting each other as a QB committee.
yep. Same thing with I was impressed with DK Metcalf as well. Look, I don't play football, so I don't know, but being held to one catch, being your caliber of receiver, like knowing what you can do, and it's just not coming into fruition, it seems very frustrating. We've seen him just in recent weeks. We've seen him all season. We've seen him in past years where he would just that frustration would boil over, and he would, shoot his team in the foot by getting himself ejected or a penalty. Um, he didn't do that at all. And it's like it was like a test, because once he got the opportunity to, he made the most of it, catching that pass, um, multiple passes on that game-winning drive. Um, it was very impressive to see him keep his resolve, keep his composure, keep his wits about him as he helped his team beat one of the better teams in the league.
Which is what
So
we
hats
talked
off to
about
him.
last week, by the way,
Yeah,
about keeping his composure.
yeah. So, what I'm saying, maybe he listened to the show. Maybe he's one of our listeners. So I'm going to transition now. I'm going to stay in the NFC, and I want to talk about the Falcons. I want to talk about the doo-doo birds, because that's how they be playing. That's how they've been playing
I'll
all
just let
season.
you take this one over. I'm not gonna lie.
I have been a Falcons fan since I was born. Hear Me Roar knows that. Uh, Everyone knows that. This season has been one of the most anticipated seasons that I remember, probably since 2017. Um, because 2017 I was ready for the bounce back. We lost in the Super Bowl. All right, that's old news now. We back up. We lost in the playoffs. We haven't reached the playoffs since. We lost in the playoffs because Julio slipped in the end zone. One of the most lasting images in my memory. So we're now fast forward to 2023. We haven't made the playoffs since then. The last time we made the playoffs, we were in the 10th grade. We have friends that have now graduated college. So that's how long it's been. Um, I'm 21. I was 14, 15 in 10th grade. So we have not reached the playoffs in a very long time. This is the most anticipated season that us Falcons fans have had. We have no Drew Brees to worry about, no Tom Brady to worry about, no Cam Newton to worry about. We have none of these Hall of Fame quarterbacks. We have a weak division. There's no one in that division that we're scared of. We have the Panthers, who are absolutely trash going into the season. We have the Buccaneers, led by Baker Mayfield, and we have Derek Carr, who quickly has shown that he is not the same quarterback that he was in Oakland, or Las Vegas, or wherever y'all want to call it. So this was our chance to win the division single-handedly after picking up Jesse Bates, after picking up Bijan Robinson in the draft, after picking up Caden Ellis, after picking up David Onyemata, after getting all of these free agent acquisitions, after getting Calais Campbell, after building the best defense we have had in years, have the best free safety in the league, we actually have a pass rush. We were supposed to have an O-line going into the season, and everything has crumbled so quickly and so embarrassingly. This was our best chance to make the playoffs in years, and we have held ourselves back. Meanwhile, the Saints, who I said were supposed to be worse than us preseason. Meanwhile, the Bucks, who I said were supposed to be worse than us preseason, they've been playing like they want to make the playoffs. Meanwhile, we are over here just BSing and taking this opportunity for granted. Look at this. Look at our schedule. We lost to we're losing to teams that we should have beaten. We lost to the Commanders. We lost to the Titans when Will Levis made his debut as an NFL rookie. We lost to the Titans. We lost to the Vikings when Josh Dobbs flew in on the plane 3 days ago. We lost to the Cardinals when Kyler Murray just came back from a torn ACL. This was his first game back in over a year. We lost to the Buccaneers in a game we should have won, and we came down to the last play. We came down to the last play, and we choked it away. The last drive for the Buccaneers. And then we lose to the Carolina Panthers, a team that was formerly 1-12, the worst team in the league by far, and we lost to them. So if you're keeping track, audience, if you're keeping track, we lost to a 1-12 team, and we lost to the Cardinals. I can't remember their record when we lost to them.
They're 3,
but they were trash too.
They're 3-11 right now.
Oh my god! So they won 2 games when we lost to them. These were all winnable games. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games. I say we should have won. 6 games we should have won. Losing to the Lions, that's understandable. We got our ass kicked in that game. Losing to the Jaguars, that's understandable. We got our ass kicked in that game too. I ain't gonna lie. Those are 2 playoff teams. I can see that. But the Commanders, the Titans, the Vikings, the Cardinals, and put all of their situations in context, we should have won those 3. Losing to the Buccaneers in the last, pretty much due to the last drive. Losing to the Panthers. And guess what? Tickets were selling for $4 at an NFL game. It was raining. I get it. It doesn't matter. You scored 7 points. You scored once the whole game. That play came. I'm looking at it right now. In the second quarter, when Desmond Ridder threw a touchdown pass to Cordell Patterson. That was the only time we scored the ball. We were outrushed. We have Tyler Algier, Bijan Robinson, and we only amassed a cumulative 52 rushing yards. Panthers had 129. The Panthers out threw us. They threw for 154 yards to 152. I know, it was only 2 yards. I don't care.
150s is crazy.
We didn't throw. We have Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Cordero Patterson, and we threw for 152 yards. I saw one of the absolutely worst interceptions I have ever seen in my life. Ever.
Well, I cannot tell you what he was looking at on that throw to save my life.
That was one of the worst passes I have ever seen with my own eyes. And it came in the fourth quarter.
In the red zone.
11 plays deep. And this man threw an interception. What color jerseys were they wearing? They were wearing black jerseys.
They're all black.
And we were wearing white. You can't get more contrasting than black and white. I don't know if the rain was in Desmond Ritter's eyes. I don't know if some of his eye black started to get in his eyes as well.
Rolling out too. He wasn't in the pocket with D linemen and offensive
he threw across his body. That was such a bullheaded thing to see. I don't know what he was thinking. That was so embarrassing. And guess what? That interception led to a 17-play, 90-yard possession for the Panthers that led to the game-winning field goal. It was embarrassing, dog. I'm so sick and tired of this team. I'm sick and tired of Arthur Smith calling plays. I'm sick and tired of Desmond Ridder. I have gone onto Twitter and have defended you. I have sat up here and said that I want to see what you can do. I have seen what you've shown me flashes. I want to see if you can build on that. You haven't built on that. You took a brick and you threw it through the foundation that you built yourself. You blew it up.
And he's actually they announced Heineke is starting.
And that's why I'm sick and tired of Arthur Smith ass. Atlanta, we want you out of here. We don't want him here anymore. I'm sitting up here and I will start a petition if need be. Arthur Smith, I don't want you. We don't want you as a collective fan base in our city anymore. You are not a good coach. Period. You sit up there and you call a run play on 4th and 2 after you already got blown up rushing the ball on 3rd down. You call a rushing play and it gets blown up again when we're in field goal range. You have such nincompoop play calls. You haven't realized how to scheme Kyle Pitts open. You clearly don't trust your quarterback because you say Drake London, you say Desmond Ridder is the starter, and then you flip flop and you put Taylor Heineke there, and then you put Desmond Ridder back as starter because Taylor Heineke got hurt. Then you say that we're gonna ride with Desmond Ridder, we're not making a QB change, and then you backtrack and you put Taylor Heineke back in. You're trying to save your job because you know you're fucking cooked. And there was reports that we won't be moving on from Arthur Smith. But look, bro, if you lose to the Cardinals and the Panthers in the same season, what are we doing here?
It's up it's up to the fans, by the way. Y'all have to find a way to not support the team if they continue with Arthur Smith. And I know I have to give y'all credit because Falcons fans are ride or die. We've known that since 2016, especially. But at some point, you got to say enough is enough. We're sick of Arthur Blank's friendship with FedEx Man coming into play. Send him out of here. We're not gonna show up to the games until you get this man off of our team.
And it's already bad because it's for some of these home games, they might as well be away games. The shit don't be piped. I ain't gonna lie. Unless we're playing the Saints, like You can clearly see the discrepancy in fans in the stadium. If you like, you have to move on. Like we got to get rid of Desmond Ritter. You're not the man for the job. You're not. You make too many mistakes on the field. They often result in turnovers. Like you're not. Like it's. I've supported you
Especially in
long
the
enough.
red zone. Especially in the red zone.
You
It
can't,
seems like every single one of his turnovers comes from in the red zone.
and that is such. It's heartbreaking for the offense because it's like, man, we just drove up the field and we're throwing the ball away. The our O line, I don't never want to hear another PFF rating ever in my life, ever in my life, ever. But I honestly don't care about the O line or making any excuses for. I'm not gonna give Dez a scapegoat as the O line because we've seen teams have success with much worse, like this year currently. So you're not the man for the job. You need to get your ass up on out of here. Maybe you can be a backup somewhere else, or maybe you can be a backup for us, or third string, or a placeholder. But you're not. You're not the QB1. And Taylor Heineke is just a band aid. It's just a band aid. Arthur Smith, you might not be on the field. You might not be wearing pads, but you are the one calling offensive plays. You're the one who's been calling the offense that only scored 10 point or only scored where is it? Only scored 7 points against the Panthers. You are the offense that only scored 13 points to the Jets. You are the one calling the offense that scored only 16 points to the Buccaneers. With all of these weapons that we have. Like if you look at our point differential, it is horrible. We are scoring 6 points one game and then scoring 28 the next. And then we'll go back and score 13 points the next game. Then we'll sit there and score 7 to a 1-12 Panthers team.
Yeah, I wish I could. And the thing is, not just it's not defense. The defense hasn't even been a problem. I can't name a bunch of games. I don't know. I got to double check the schedule, but I can't name games where they put up like 40, 30, 30, 40, 50 bombs on y'all, especially against the bad teams.
No one has. The only team that scored the most points this season was the Vikings with 31 points.
Which is great defensively, but that's not even where the best talent is on the team. The best talent on the team is your number 4 overall pick, tight end that had 1,000 yards as a rookie. Your number 14 overall pick, number 11 overall pick that had 1,000 yards as a rookie, and then your number 8 overall pick that looks like a generational talent whenever he has the ball in his hands in the backfield. But they just, offense, like it's too much to have to not be producing.
And that's my problem. It's like, bro, like I look at the Texans, dog. What were the expectations for them going into this season? It wasn't what they're doing now.
We're not a playoff team.
Like that was the expectation was let's, you know what I'm saying, get CJ Stroud accustomed to the NFL pace of play. Get him used to. I mean, look, Tank Dell is a rookie. Is Nico when was Nico Collins drafted?
I want to say it's like his 4th year.
So if Nico Collins is your longest tenured receiver, and y'all and they're doing D'Amico Ryans as a rookie head coach, first time head coach. You have all of these different, you have all this youth as a team.
3rd year,
all of these weapons, but y'all are so young, and y'all are able to do this in the AFC, in a tougher division. Meanwhile, we're struggling against our own division, our own mediocre ass division. So many games we should have won. So many games. And we're like, look at the Texans and how they're doing. Look at the Browns and how they're doing. Another team with a great defense. They have pieces on offense, but somehow with Joe Flacco at quarterback, they're putting it all together. Look at the Colts. They lost Anthony Richardson. They've been running with Gardner Minshew for the last 6 or so weeks, and they're putting everything together. What's going on? Atlanta, what's going on? We like you said, we got too much talent for us to be sitting up here losing to these teams that we're losing to. So I'm disappointed. We got to play the Colts next week. We got to play the Bears. And we got to play the Saints. I ain't going to lie to you. We're dropping 2 of those games. We're dropping 2 of those games. I sat up there and I saw what the Bears were able to do to the Browns. They forced Joe Flacco 4 turnovers. I know the Browns still won, but if they could force 4 turnovers out of Joe Flacco, Lord only knows what he's going to be able to do what they're going to do to Taylor Heineke or Desmond Ridder.
Well, at least a little bit of early film on future Falcons quarterback Justin Fields.
Oh man, I really hope we're able to get him. I really hope. Like we need, because that would be the best of both worlds. Justin Fields need to change the scenery, and we need a goddamn quarterback that is. I like Justin Fields, right? He's been able to do something with
hometown
Minnesota.
kid. He's
right.
Georgia boy.
I really want. Justin Fields would be preferable. I want someone who I have seen, someone I can build with. But honestly, shit ain't gonna be any different as long as Arthur Smith Econos plays. So if I was I don't know. If I was Justin Fields, I would not want to come over to Atlanta if I see this man calling the plays, because it's gonna be the same thing. But that's that, man. I'm just irritated with the Falcons, dog. Let's just move on before I get any more upset.
So we had a couple other ones, Bills, Cowboys. Bills went in.
Yeah, that was
this was one
bad game.
I wanted to talk about specifically because the Cowboys refused to, or I'm sorry, not refused, but simply could not run the ball. And the conditions were a little rough. And the Bills said, okay, we're going to run the ball. We're going to give James Cook, we're going to let James Cook eat. And he feasted on the defense. He had, the Bills had 200 plus rushing yards. James Cook went off. He had, let me see the exact number, 25 carries for 179 yards. That is 7 yards a carry, almost a first down.
That's crazy.
Every carry. Cowboys defense just got ran all over. I wouldn't, if you told me the Bills had Josh Allen was 7 of 15 with 94 yards, I would have told you they got blown out.
Yeah.
But they went in. They said, we're going to run the ball, and run the ball they did. Cowboys defense could not stop them to save their lives. And this is exactly what we've talked about with Dak. Can you play from behind? Can you play from behind? Can you go get us a win can we ask you to put the ball in your hands and go win the game, or go, just keep us in the game when we're losing? And yet again, he did not show up. He finished the game with, let me see the exact number, 21 of 34 for 134 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception. Again, what we said, it started early. They came out, the Bills came out, smacked them in the mouth early, rushing the football, just pounding it, scoring early, and the Cowboys just had no answer. They had no answer. They couldn't get it going on offense. Couldn't stop anything on defense. And these were the exact questions that we asked last week. Can they do these things? And yet again, they failed the test.
Right. And honestly, I really think that whatever the Bills did going into this game, they were at home. And just looking at the Dallas Cowboys, they lost on the road to the Cardinals. They lost on the road to the 49ers. They lost on the road to the Eagles. They lost on the road to the Bills. So, look, it looks like for them, they're going to have to play on the road in the playoffs. They're going to have to figure out how to win. But whatever game plan the Bills drew up for the Cowboys, that looks like the blueprint to beat Dallas in the playoffs. Smack them in the mouth early. control the pace of the game. Don't give the Cowboys a chance to do anything. Look at the possession time difference. Bills had the ball for a cumulative 35 minutes compared to the Cowboys 24. That's that, like you said, like the Bills came out and just said, look, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna run this damn ball down your throat. And they ended up rushing for 266 yards. They went up 21-3 at the by halftime. And that's when I sent in the group chat. Well, time to see what that Prescott talking about. Time to see what he's talking about. He didn't talk about
Anytime
nothing.
out none.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Third quarter, you let the Bills score the field goal. That was the only points in the third quarter was a field goal by the Bills. Fourth quarter, James Cook gets another touchdown, scores 31-3, and then you get a garbage time touchdown with under 3 minutes left in the game to pad CeeDee Lamb's stats, and it was a rushing touchdown, if anything.
Not even
So it wasn't even a passing touchdown. It was a bad game. Dak Prescott threw an interception. What's new? I don't want to hear shit about him being an MVP. I'm very glad that I could get that reality out of that universe is erased. Doctor Strange had all those universes in his hands. That one is kicked out. So I'm glad.
It's kind of funny that the MVP race has come down essentially to two players on the same team. It's really Purdy or CMC. Honestly, I think it's not the first time it's happened. I think we could or should see a co-MVP because I know we're not on the 49ers right now, but to me that team it's a car. That team is a car, and CMC and Brock Purdy are the hybrid engine. One's electric, one's the V6. You need both of them. And
V6. Whoa.
V8, my fault. V8. We got the V8 in there. We got the V8 under the hood. With the way that offense is, 42 points.
Yeah, I'm about to say V6. I
definitely got the V8 under the hood. But yeah, they need both. CMC is doing unprecedented, scoring at a ridiculous clip. Brock Purdy's commanding the offense, hitting throws on all levels of the field, and don't want to get into too much about the 49ers because
no, we feel like just talking about them now. Look, we pretty much, if we're looking at it, the NFC is Cowboys, Eagles, Lions, 49ers. The 49ers did what they were supposed to do. They went and y'all was at home, right? Or was it away?
No, it was an away game. Remember, I showed you the clip. I sent you the clip that it looked like a home game.
Look, y'all went on the road and y'all did what y'all supposed to do, and y'all beat the Cardinals. And so we're sitting up here looking at the two teams that are y'all competition that lost. Meanwhile, y'all won. It's looking great for y'all.
Yeah, and so literally 2 out of the next 3 weeks, they just have to win 2 games, and they get the bye week confirmed first seed. They play the Ravens this week. Likely seems like every other week 49ers have a potential game of the year. But we got 2 11-3 juggernauts staring at each other right now. 49ers and Ravens. That's gonna be a great game. 49ers are the hottest offense in the league right now. Ravens are probably second, honestly. They took a big loss though. They lost Keaton Mitchell. That's a pretty rough loss to that backfield. We were just gassing him up last week. He tore his ACL, so he's out for the season. So that it's going to be an offensive challenge for the Ravens to see what they can do on that defense. No Mark Andrews, no Keaton Mitchell. Just we're gonna have that offense is gonna have to score because with every game we see with the 49ers, it's a track race. The 49ers, it almost feels like they score on every drive, right? And it feels like if they score and you don't score, they're just gonna score again, and it's just that gap just feels that, and that's exactly what happened to the Cardinals, right? They were keeping up for a little bit, and then once that snowball, we literally talked about it last week, that snowball starts rolling, it just builds, and that offense just cannot stop. Yeah, and so it's going to come down to the Ravens' ability to match the 49ers' ability to score.
I think that they can do that. I honestly do. Because the 49 defense is scary. It's tough. but it's definitely beatable. You're already seeing it early in the season. I and shit. The only time a team is unbeatable is if you're undefeated. Ain't nobody like that in this season. I think, and it was especially with the Ravens and how they play, especially Lamar Jackson. He's on his MVP campaign. Probably not going to get it, but he's on his MVP campaign. Um, Having
If
the
he beats
best
the
passing
49ers, he might.
year. Yeah, so it's still a chance. He's the Ravens has shown an ability to not just be explosive with their passing attack, but they're also efficient. Not too many mistakes in the passing game. Um, and then, of course, I know Keaton Mitchell without, but you pair that with Gus Edwards and Lamar Jackson's ability to literally ground and pound the ball in their opponent's face. I truly think that is such a dynamic offense that excuse me, that if they score, you got to score on your first possession if I'm the Ravens. That's my
Mm,
outlook. I gotta come like my game plan this week. Gotta score first. Gotta score first. I know it's a long game. Anything can happen, but against some teams, especially the 49ers, you don't want to leave points up on the board.
definitely.
You don't want to. And it's just, I relate that to fighting. Like, some in Muay Thai when I fight, it's 2 minutes, 2 minute rounds. I don't have time to just play around and catch my rhythm late. I gotta go.
Mm,
And that's the because you lose that first round, that can sway the rest of the momentum. Now you have to win the second round. Now you have to win the third round. For the Ravens, it's kind of similar. You don't score on that first possession.
now you're playing keep
Um,
up. You're playing
now,
keep up.
now,
That's
yeah,
just
now you got to score. Now it's like, damn, now we're down 7-0. Now we have to score on the second one because if we don't,
they might
and
go
we're in bad field
14.
position. Now the
Yeah,
49ers got the ball and it's 14-0, and it's just it can just be bad. Um, it's possible because I just love how dynamic the Ravens offense is. Um, they have a tough defense. Like they have the Jags to 7 points. You know, the Ravens are a solid all around team despite their injuries.
heavy
Um,
loss.
like it's and then just looking at Lamar Jackson as a player, there's not many players on his level that he's been that playing this season. Like if we look at quarterback rankings this season, look, we're probably looking at Brock Purdy, and this is not in any particular order, but Brock Purdy, Lamar Jackson,
Mahomes, um,
yeah,
probably
Patrick Mahomes,
Purdy, Mahomes, Jackson, Dak, CJ. That would probably be my top five
yeah.
list.
I say I can't even throw
Jared
Tua in
Goff,
there because that
right,
boy looks
right
like
out.
trash when Tyreek Hill goes out.
Yeah, well, they did good this year. I mean, this
Yeah,
week.
this week, yeah,
Obviously
they
against a
scored
team
30-0.
yeah, a team they were supposed to beat, of course. But I would say that's probably a couple of those spots are interchangeable at like the fifth position, especially like Shroud, Goff.
Yeah,
All of those are right there. But yeah, Lamar Jackson is definitely top three this year.
easy. It's so interesting too. Like, I was just looking at that 30-0 win by the Miami Dolphins. Like, and by the way, I just make a quick note. Tyreek Hill isn't winning MVP. He isn't hitting 2,000. He's missed last game, and then the game before that, he missed pretty much two complete quarters.
I
Um,
saw him on Fortnite.
it's
I saw him on
ridiculous.
Fortnite on TikTok. I was
Yeah,
just scrolling through
that man.
TikTok. I said, "You're getting killed by Peely, bro." Like,
Yeah, bro. Let's see. I'm sure he can cope with not hitting 2,000 by playing this Fortnite. That dude is so funny, bro. On the game, that man is so funny. Imagine just you're getting trolled by a banana peel, bro. That's insane. Grown
but
man,
yeah,
professional athlete, multimillionaire, and you're gonna your whole life is being just
my little
ran by
kid
a banana.
bananas. But yeah, no, he's not hitting that 2000. And honestly, I hate to say it this way, but them putting up that 30 bomb without him might have hurt his case a little bit because it's like
Yeah,
they, I mean, I don't want to say don't need Tyreek because they obviously need Tyreek, but it's like, okay, this offense, and this was, we had a question we had, can they function without Tyreek? Okay, they can function without Tyreek. Again, obviously
yeah,
the
but
team they're
it's so
supposed to be.
weird though. because they lost 30-0 or they won 30-0, but then last week, you know,
Well, it's
that
always a
was
little bit. It's always a little bit tougher when you lose a player
in the
versus.
middle of the game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Because you have a game plan, and obviously the game plan can change over the course of a game. But it's always tougher when you lose a player during the game versus
Yeah, that was
start.
so odd though. It was such a complete switch. That was very interesting. It was just a complete switch. And it's like I don't know, is it just me or have you noticed like an influx of low scoring games this year?
Oh,
Like,
just in general, offense is down this year. Offense
yeah,
in
like it's
general is down this
bad.
year. It's been, I mean, when you look at the quarterbacks, like people, this is why I think part of the reason that people don't see Purdy as MVP, because when you look at the numbers, yeah, he's leading in all the like a bunch of statistical categories, but it's not like a crazy season like 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns that we're
Oh
used
yeah.
to seeing.
Mm-mm.
There's probably not going to be a 5,000-yard quarterback this season. In fact,
No, yeah, this is the first time in a while where it's like there isn't one quarterback that is heads and shoulders above all.
yeah, and so it's like I offense in general just isn't. And then when you look at the rushing, CMC is the only rusher above 1K right now. So that's why
That's crazy.
you look at the things that, like both of those, offense in general just isn't high. There's been a lot of low scoring games this year. Offense in general just isn't very high.
Yeah, that's it's kind of crazy. Very weird. Man, hey, like I said, bro, this weekend of sports was crazy. Like we recently were just been talking about Sunday and Monday the whole time.
Yeah,
How about we gonna talk about Thursday?
yeah, I
The
was
Raiders
literally just
dropping
about to say.
63, dropped their nuts on Brandon Staley and the Chargers, bro. 63
No,
to 21.
and the 21 is generous because it was garbage time 21.
Yeah.
It was really 63-7 until late fourth quarter. So
No, yeah, I was sitting up here looking. I was like, dude, man, this was a newsworthy week. A lot of stuff went on, man.
yeah, Brandon Staley, I hope your flight to Shanghai treats you well. I hope you sit back and get comfy because that's where you're headed. Um,
Yeah.
it was about time. About time. It should have been. It should have happened last year when they threw away a
Yep.
27-point lead.
And we have been
But
proponents of that for a very long time. But it's really sad that it took losing 49-0 in the beginning of the third quarter. Jacoby Myers is throwing touchdown passes for you to know, it's time to fire him. It's sad that it had to come to that point because that is an embarrassment to your franchise. Really
yeah,
bad.
shout out the Raiders for that one of the touchdowns was his crazy one-handed interception pick six. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
that screen that he intercepted. That was crazy.
But Jack
Um,
Jones, yeah.
but yeah, that offense, Aiden O'Connell did his thing. Tay was Tay. Jacoby Myers apparently is a great quarterback. But yeah, Antonio Pierce, he has the locker room completely right now. The Raiders would be so dumb to move on from him as head coach because
Right.
bare minimum. I mean, he's winning games, but bare minimum, he has the locker room. They want to go out and play for Pierce, and that's there's almost no better foundation than that, than having that trust, having that players want to go win for you, and that matters, especially in close games down the stretch. Obviously this season the Raiders aren't doing anything, but
Right.
the fact that they even want to go out and put up a 60 bomb on a team in a lost season speaks volumes for how much they want to play for Pierce. So if he doesn't win that head coach job, I hope he gets a good job somewhere else because he's done a great job turning that season around.
Yeah. Hey, look, hey, y'all go ahead and fire him. Be stupid and fire him because I'm gonna go ahead and pick his ass up. You put him on this team with these dogs that we got. Look, we gonna have a whole different season. But yeah, like you said, that really does speak numbers because this was a division rivalry game too. Like the Raiders and Chargers have an underrated rivalry. Like we don't really talk about it as far as the AFC West, but they've never liked each other. And for you to go out and put 63 points up on their heads, 49 points unanswered, that's impressive. Like you said, it's a lost season. You got nothing to play for. But rather than giving up, rather than tanking and trying to get a draft pick like some other teams would do, you are actively trying to build a rapport with your players. You're actually trying to build some synergy between the unit. I like seeing that. Um, yeah, he just look, man, he 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 always is fired up. He always has his team playing hard. And they got the pieces to be a good team. Um, Clearly Jimmy G didn't work. He got hurt, but I mean that shit wasn't gonna work. Period. But Aiden O'Connell is kind of just salvaging what he can. But you find you do your due diligence. You try to pick. I don't know. What do you say for a team in the Raiders' shoes? I know clearly the number one thing I do is see if you're going to lock down your head coaching position or not. But then what's next? Like, do
Yeah,
you do
player
you
personnel
draft
wise,
a quarterback or do you just find one in free agency?
they're in a really weird spot because
Right.
they're not gonna have a low enough draft pick to get like one of the top, top dogs out of the quarterback. It's not a super deep quarterback draft.
Yeah.
Um, I guess in this draft, you'll just have to see who's available still on the board. I think if someone Daniels or May or Williams, if they fall to you, you have to pick one of them. And that
Yeah.
goes for a lot of teams, but the Raiders especially because that quarterback Aiden O'Connell, he'll be a great backup, but he's not QB1.
Nope.
Jimmy G.
That's all I gotta
And
say.
so I think number one thing, they're just in a weird spot. If they can't get anyone in free agency, I think you just kind of they just have to we'll just have to see how time plays out for them because you got to see who's available in free agency, got to see who's available when the draft time comes. And so I think their best bet is a little bit of patience right now. Try to sit back, scope the market, obviously be somewhat aggressive in the market, but just to, you know, feel things out, feel where this team is at because they have playmakers, Josh Jacob, they have Tay Adams in the obviously out wide. They
Yeah.
have pieces on that defense. Max Crosby didn't need to lock him up. I don't know if they have you or he just signed that big deal.
Yeah.
So Max Crosby, one of the best pass rushers in the league. Figured out. They just got certain pieces, certain places to monitor right now, but they're in a very interesting spot.
Yeah, they are. So yeah, I think first things first, just go ahead and resign Big Dog for head coach. Let's go ahead and resign him. That would be that's one step
Yeah,
closer to just being a better team next year. Go ahead
absolutely.
and do that. But yeah, like you said, they are in a weird spot personnel wise. Let's take a trip. Take a trip to the AFC South. Right, that is the AFC South. Yeah, you got all of them played. You got Titans, Colts, Texans, Jags, and it's a pretty close playoff race between the Colts, Jags, and Texans. The Colts beat the Steelers last Saturday. The Texans beat the Titans in a really, really, really good game, and without C.J. Stroud, by the way. And the Ravens beat the Jags. We already talked on them. So, Who do you? What are your thoughts on the AFC South division?
If Shroud comes back, I see the Texans winning. Or actually, what is the Jags record again? Because
The
I don't,
Jags,
and I got to see who they play these next couple of years. Or I'm sorry,
they're
next
eight and
2 weeks.
six.
I still think I don't know who has the tiebreaker between whoever has a tiebreaker between the Jags and Texans. I think will win the division. I'm not sure. They split the series this year.
Yeah,
So I don't know who. It comes down to strength of schedule, all that other points, and all that other stuff. So I think between the two of them, whoever has the tiebreaker over the other wins the division. But I think they're not. It is a strength. Titans are mathematically eliminated. Colts are sneaky. They're probably going to make the playoffs. I don't see them doing
hmm
much in it, of course. And then let's see, the Jags play the Bucks, Panthers, and Titans. Those are all winnable games for them. I think they'll definitely go 3-0 in this last stretch, barring any crazy injuries. I just think,
Well, speaking of, Trevor Lawrence entered concussion protocol after they lost to the Ravens, so I'm sure he'll probably be back. But man, that is something.
yeah, that's something to monitor. So I think but I still think it'll come down to whoever has the tiebreaker over the other. Because let's see, we got Browns. Texans play the Browns. That'll be a little bit of a challenge for them, but I still think that's a very winnable game.
Easy.
And then the Titans and the Colts, which are two winnable games for them. So, like I said,
Wait,
whoever
when
has a
did the Jags play the Titans? They play them next week?
no, they play week 18.
Oh, okay, never mind. I was say because the Titans going to give whoever they play trouble. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah,
Titans are a
so
tough team.
it's gonna come down to the tiebreaker, and they'll both make the playoffs. I think all three will make the
They're not
playoffs,
making them,
but they're not. I don't. Jags, I've been saying all season they're frauds to me. I don't see them
Yeah.
having much success. Texans making the playoffs in general is a win for them. So I mean, I wouldn't want to be the team to go against the Texans in the playoffs because they've got a lot to play for. They're not playing. They're cornered. A cornered lion. They're not exactly playing to playing or they're playing above expectations right now, and that's scary because they have nothing to lose. They're not gonna
Right.
if they lose in the playoffs, for them it's so what? We had a great season, so they're gonna come out. They're gonna be aggressive. I wouldn't want to play that team if they're hot going into the playoffs.
Me neither. Yeah,
And
it's
yeah,
very interesting. I would not expected this division to be so close.
yeah. Well, I had a little bit more faith in the Texans than the average person. I don't know quite as good as they did, but I trusted in D'Amico because I know what he did with us in the 49ers and how he took control of the defensive unit there. So I always had faith in D'Amico. But yeah, definitely exceeding expectations by a crazy amount.
Yeah, really, really, really drastic margin. Um, yeah, we can just touch on just a little more teams around the league before we wrap it up. We got Buccaneers beat the Packers. Man, and the Saints beat the Giants. So, you know, I hope those two teams have fun fighting for the playoffs because that's what I mean though. Like the Saints and the Bucks are playing like we want to make the playoffs. Like, oh, this division is wide open. Okay, let's just go see what we can do with it. Now let's go try to win. And they, I know beating the Giants isn't nothing to just be super crazy about, but 24-6, that was a pretty single-handed game.
Yeah, it was a good win too. It was
Yeah,
Derek Carr did his thing, had like 2 touchdowns, 200 some yards, no picks.
and then the
So
Buccaneers beating the Packers, like
Baker
that.
Mayfield went off. He had 4
Yeah,
touchdowns, a perfect passer rating. Just a
it's
great
just so
game from them.
disappointing, bro. It's so disappointing, man. Because then you look at the rest of the division, you're like, okay, 24-6 Saints, 34-20 Carolina 9-7. Man, it's just so aggravating. The Browns beat the
Line,
Bears.
yeah, Browns. That was a good win. Like you said, Joe Flacco had 4 turnovers, and they were still able to overcome that. Bears got out to an early lead, and like I saw, they got a little complacent. Kind of, they were just happy to be winning versus going out and getting it and going out and
Finishing it.
securing the win. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they weren't able to scoop that out. They almost had a chance there at the end with that Hail Mary, though. Darnell Mooney had it literally cradled. I don't know how he didn't catch it, to be honest.
Yeah, that was insane. I don't know how he didn't lock that in. That was a crazy ending. But how do you feel about Deshaun Watson? Like he's been on the IR and the Browns haven't regressed a single bit. Like let's be
Well, I
real.
don't
Like
think there's any way you can't cut him. The dead cap is that you would lose. The dead cap would be too high. You can't trade him because who is going to take that contract?
right.
It's really just you kind of are in a situation where you have to stick with his choice because you made the choice to get him next year. And I think barring Browns winning the Super Bowl, I don't think they keep Joe Flacco in any capacity. So they've got they've kind of put themselves in a situation where you have to stick with him. You have to see this contract through.
Yeah. And it's really I could see the frustration being a Browns fan because it's like, well, dude, we're allocating almost 30% of our cap space to one man, and he hasn't done anything for us since he's gotten here. Let's just be real. Like, he hasn't done anything. Meanwhile, we have Joe Flacco to rewinding the clock back to 2012. Like it's like it's just and we're a solid team too.
Yeah.
So this I think that this is gonna be a long game for the Browns, and by that I don't mean like a long game. Like that could be we can see how this team looks in a couple of years. No, like Deshaun Watson is going to have to win as soon as he comes back, whether it's this year, next year, whenever. They need to go win because the defense that they have is top notch. They're winning these games and they're just finding a way to win with average quarterback play.
And then a lot of injuries too. Nick Chubb is hurt.
Yeah.
They lost their starting safety, Grant Delpit. They lost Maurice Hurst on the D line. So just like you said, finding a way to win games.
And so you're doing this with Joe Flacco. So when Deshaun Watson comes back, your expectations, which were already high due to the amount of money we're paying you, they're going to be even higher because what the hell are you doing losing when Joe Flacco was winning these games?
Yeah,
that's what it comes down to, and it's the tough reality of it.
Yeah.
Oh, do I feel bad? No, because you're making all that goddamn money.
They're definitely in a situation where you got to see it through. They got to see it through. Nobody's going to take that contract. Nobody's going to pay. It doesn't matter. No, I can't see any situation where any team, even a win now team that's a quarterback away like you guys, I don't see any situation where they take on that contract. And
I don't want that man no ways.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot that comes with taking him on anyway. So
when he was playing, he wasn't even playing that good.
Yeah, he was looking average, and so just not a good situation, not the best situation to be in for the Browns. But they got to see it through. Hopefully, he can up his play next year, I guess. But they'll have to see.
Yeah. So as we wrap up this stream, or not even stream, as we wrap up this podcast recording, we can talk about let's talk about the Lions. We're gonna have this finish out our NFL talk today.
That was a good
Lions
one.
beat the Broncos. Yeah, that was a great win for Jared Goff. He did his thing. The Broncos are what now? 10 or no? They're 7-7, second in the AFC West.
They're gonna. I gotta look at the rest of the schedule, but they're probably gonna make the playoffs. I think the thing for them is just consistency. They've dropped 2 in a row. They lost to the Texans on a close game. They lost to the Lions, got smoked, wasn't even close. So I think it just comes down to them for a matter of finding a way to lock everything all together. Like it seems like one thing shines, you cover one hole and another 2 show up between like offense and defense. And so I think they're definitely gonna make the playoffs. I wouldn't necessarily be worried about them if I'm a real playoff caliber team. Like if they play the Texans week 1 in the playoffs, I would say the Texans are gonna win.
Yeah.
I just don't think that they have quite the ability to just go win games. Like
I think that it's a problem with the Broncos is they don't. Like when you look at their offense, I know they have Courtland Sutton. He's a good receiver and all, but like there isn't anyone on that offense that jumps out as like a deep threat or like a explosive playmaker.
Yeah.
And it really showed in that game against the Broncos. I was jumping back and forth between that and the UFC because it came on when the prelims were starting. But when I would fully pay attention to the game, I'll look at the Broncos offense. I'm like, bro, they're just chugging along, like just soup, or they're just trotting like they're in mud. Couldn't get going. Halftime, 21-0. You could not get going. And I know it was your leading receiver, Jared Jeudy, with 74 yards. Compared to Amon-Ra St. Brown, 7 receptions on 112 yards and a touchdown. The Broncos just don't have any offensive weaponry that says like, oh man, we finna like how Demaryius Thomas back in the day was, God rest his soul. Like when I'm gonna throw that motherfucker up, and I know he's gonna go up there and get it. Like
Literally.
that's or Brandon Marshall even. Like they don't have anyone that is like, okay, we're gonna go win this. Like I'm gonna go throw it to you. You're gonna
Yeah.
get open and you're gonna go come reel this in.
Just nobody to lean on that offense. No running back to
Mm-mm.
lean on, no receiver to lean on. It's kind of like Russell Wilson. Not I don't want to say necessarily Russell Wilson save us, but Russell Wilson go out, do your thing.
Right.
See if Cortland Sutton is able to get separation, if he can make a good catch or not. Jerry, see if he can do his thing. But nobody that they can just say, you two go make our play for you two. We put the ball in your hands, you two, we trust you to win this game.
Right. And if they make firstly, if they even make the playoffs, um, it's going to have an effect on their performance. Like, at this point, like that Russell Wilson is not the guy that you can just lean on. Like we said, you're not gonna be able to lean on him like he was in Seattle. Um, you're gonna have to build around him if you kind of have to because you allocated all that money to him. You have to build around him, and if that's so, where you got to upgrade the offensive talent, the receiving talent, because yeah, like it is kind of a not it's like a no man's land, I'll say,
Yeah.
because you're good, but you're not bad, and you're just here, and you're not really improving. Well, you improved from last year, so if I'm a Broncos fan, that's enough. But I'm thinking future wise, like we're not really doing anything. Like we're not going to be anything significant until we bolster our offense.
Yeah, just like you said, no man's land. They don't have a set future in mind. They're not good enough to win now, but they don't like have young enough where they're setting themselves up for the future. Just kind of good enough to make the playoffs, good enough to get by, but not good enough to really do anything in the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah, man. And that's it. This is coming down to the wire. We got 3 weeks left. It's coming up super quick. We got another game on Thursday. What's that? We got Rams versus Saints. Hmm.
It's gonna be a big playoff game.
Yeah, it was Rams versus
There are
Saints.
big playoff implications from that game.
We got two more games Saturday: Steelers versus Bengals, Chargers versus Bills. That's more playoff games. Like the Bills got to beat the Chargers. Don't let the Chargers hire some interim head coach and get them some momentum. Buffalo, don't let that happen. Bengals versus Steelers. The Steelers, the Steelers and the Jags have just been I know the
Yeah,
Steelers lost to the Colts.
they're
Like
fighting for a playoff spot right now. Might
right,
not
those two
get it, to
teams
be
just
honest.
and the Bengals with what's that, Miss Jake Browning.
Yeah, he's
Well,
been he's been doing his thing, man. I'm not gonna lie
right,
to you.
yeah, he's been doing his thing. So that's gonna be a big game on Saturday. We've got Christmas Eve games. Browns versus Texans. That's gonna be a good one. Packers, Panthers, Seahawks, Titans, Commanders, Jets, Vikings, Lions, Falcons, Colts, Buccaneers, Jags, Cowboys, Dolphins is gonna be good. Cardinals, Bears, Broncos, Patriots. Oh my God, that's the 8:15 game. Oh man, to cap off Sunday, to cap off my Christmas Eve, watching the Broncos and the Patriots.
Christmas is
Lord
gonna
have
be pretty
mercy.
good though.
Now Christmas we're gonna have some bangers. We got Chiefs Raiders. I realistically see the Raiders winning. Um the Eagles Giants and the 49ers Ravens. That's gonna be a really good one. Damn. That's what? That's one. That's 3 straight days of football. Okay, spoiling me. So
But
yeah,
yeah, man.
that's gonna be it. We're getting real close to the playoffs. Right now it's looking like the 49ers are not even looking like the 49ers are the best team in the league. They're really the only
Health,
thing
health,
holding themselves
health,
back are themselves.
health. Because
Yeah,
Hargrave and Eric Armstead didn't play last week, so they were missing two D tackles. We'll see how that if they can get them back in time for next week or in time for the Ravens. We'll see how that'll play out.
yeah. And because especially with that run game, you want to have this. all hands on deck on that front line.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, man, that might be a Super Bowl preview. I'm excited for that one. I'm excited for
Cowboys,
Dolphins,
Dolphins.
Cowboys. Yeah, because look, the Dolphins and how explosive their offense is, and they got a pretty good run game too. Raheem Mostert starts the game off strong, and the blueprint is there for the Cowboys. I hope Mike McCarthy and Dan Quinn and the rest of the Cowboys coaching staff understands that the 49ers are taking note. The Eagles are taking note. This they have found a formula to beat you. You have to tighten up now. Like it's going to be one of those things where you're not going to be able to play the same way that you've been playing these last, or the way you won your 10 games. That loss showed a lot, especially with Dak Prescott and his inability to get going. And the Buffalo Bills defense, not to take away anything from him, but Dak Prescott and his lack of an ability to lead from behind. It shows, and it's going to show even bigger in the playoffs. So with that, we're going to wrap up this episode. This is episode 29 of the Hidden Roar podcast, the first one with some visuals. I know we're going to have to spice up the background. I'm going to have to spice up the background, get something going. But that's going to come with time. It's going to come with time. And now that we have a platform where we can record at home, and we have a pretty good setup, all things considered, we're gonna be getting even more podcast episodes from Hear Me Roar. I'm thinking the next episode might save it for next week, next Tuesday, because I'm looking at the NBA schedule and I'm like, not much to talk about to where it warrants episode on Thursday or episode on Friday. Perhaps if we get some good news by Friday, and in any sports world, maybe we can put together a show. If not, next Tuesday for sure, because we got so much football to talk about. We'll start implementing more NBA basketball talks in. And with that, my name is the Tony Hope. This is the Hear Me Roar podcast, co-hosted by Noble Lewis, and we are going to be signing off.